Fun and quick automotive tech tips that you should know. Part 2. We're talking about bleeding brakes. Sometimes when you're bleeding brakes, you get trapped air. Trapped air could be something as simple as a line is setting up too high, or there's too many coils in the line. It's just a really kind of a weird way that they run the lines. Sometimes you have to maybe think about relocating. Let's just talk about a caliper or something like that. But listen, we have to relocate a caliper up higher than the line. And try bleeding it out that way. But if you take the caliper loose to relocate it, make sure you put a block of wood or something in between the piston and everything so that it has something firm to sit against, since it's not pressing against the rotor anymore. But the point is once you get it up high, crack your bleeder open, try bleeding your brakes and see what that does for you on moving the trapped air out. Another thing to think about is, we've always been taught about working from the back towards the front, right? When you're bleeding brakes, the rear passenger rear wheel all the way up to the front. Well, this time I'm going to recommend you try working from the front to the back. And you want to break the lines loose starting at the master cylinder. Start doing that. And what you're going to do is you're going to use the lines instead of the bleeders as you're bleeding the air from. So what that does for you is a lot of times it helps get the pedal to be stiff again. And then once you start getting a stiff pedal, then you go back to your traditional bleeding from the front to the back to make sure you've got the air out of the system completely. And then the last thing I'm going to point out to you in part 2 here is tap, 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 right? So sometimes air gets clingy. It sticks to the lines internally. It sticks to the pistons and the master cylinder and other places, right? And it doesn't necessarily move through there because it's kind of stuck in place. It's kind of like a soda bottle, right? A lot of carbonation. You can see the bubble sticking to the side, right? So go over to while you're bleeding out the lines and just start tapping with a small wrench, maybe a 3/4 inch wrench, and just go over and tap, 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 tap as you're bleeding your brake lines and you're opening up a bleeder valve. A lot of times that jars loose the little bubbles and helps push the air on out of the system and promotes a stiff pedal. Now on to part 3.